You fool yourself by waiting for luck, allies, or guidance. While you hesitate, others take what is yours. Wealth doesn't wait. It is claimed by the ruthless. Chapter 1: The Mirage of Delay. You have been lied to. All your life, society has drilled into you that patience, diligence, and waiting for the right moment are the keys to wealth. You have been conditioned to believe that money, power, and influence arrive in their own time, delivered by fate, luck, or the guidance of someone more experienced. This is the first deception that weakens you. While you linger, waiting for signs or permission, others are moving, grabbing opportunities, exploiting gaps, and establishing dominance. Every second you waste, the world silently erases your potential. Delay is not benign. It is a predator disguised as prudence. The more you convince yourself that timing matters, the more you defer action. You tell yourself, I'll wait until I feel ready. I'll wait until I have enough knowledge. I'll wait until circumstances are perfect. In reality, perfection is a trap. The universe does not pause for you. It does not bend to your hesitation. While you calibrate, others seize the spoils. They do not deliberate endlessly. They act. And that action becomes irreversible advantage. The mirage of delay also exploits your self-deception. You see yourself as patient, disciplined, and cautious, but underneath lies a hidden truth: fear. Fear of making mistakes, fear of appearing foolish, fear of exposure. This fear convinces you that waiting is wise. It cloaks in virtue what is actually weakness. And the world reads this weakness like an open map. Every opportunity you hesitate on becomes a vacancy someone else will occupy. Every moment you postpone is a step backward while others surge forward. History is full of examples. The cautious hare, waiting for the perfect moment to invest, watches as a bolder rival builds an empire in the same territory. The indecisive entrepreneur loses clients while competitors act decisively. Even personal wealth follows the same logic. The moment you hesitate, someone else steps in. The world rewards decisiveness, not contemplation. The world respects results, not intentions. Waiting is the silent killer of ambition. This chapter is not merely theoretical. It is a call to recalibrate your perception. Wealth is not distant, hidden behind walls of complexity or luck. It is closer than you imagine, but it demands immediate recognition and decisive execution. The first step is abandoning the fantasy that you can control timing. Timing is a tool, not a master. You do not wait for the perfect alignment. You create it by acting where others falter. You do not seek permission. You command it through deliberate positioning. Finally, understand this: every delay has a price. Every hesitation transfers potential power from you to those with audacity. The wealth you dream of exists in the present, within reach, but only if you act. The illusion of delay is the first test. Fail it, and you remain invisible, average, and powerless. Pass it, and you begin the transformation from spectator to player, from passive dreamer to the architect of your own fortune. Action is not optional. In the game of wealth, the world moves fast, and it favors the bold. Waiting is a luxury reserved for those who are already secure, those whose power cannot be challenged. If you are not yet untouchable, waiting is your enemy. Recognize the mirage, act immediately, and start claiming what is closer than you realize. Chapter 2: The Psychology of Inaction. Inaction is not neutral. Every second you hesitate, the world judges you, not openly, not with words, but with consequences. Your silence, your refusal to act, communicates weakness. Others read it with instinctive precision. They sense your fear, your uncertainty, your reliance on circumstance or approval. In the game of wealth, hesitation is more dangerous than failure. A bold misstep can be corrected, but inaction is permanent. It lets opportunities slip, it lets rivals advance, and it signals to the world that you are disposable. The mind of the passive is a trap. You tell yourself that inaction protects you from risk. You rationalize that waiting, calculating endlessly, or overthinking decisions is strategic. But in reality, it is self-deception. Your brain is wired to seek comfort and avoid discomfort. It frames fear as prudence and caution as wisdom. The consequence: you remain inert while others act. The passive mind perceives threats that do not exist, magnifies obstacles that are surmountable, and constructs excuses that justify mediocrity. Inaction is contagious internally. The longer you wait, the more you reinforce a cycle of doubt and delay. You begin to believe that opportunities are fleeting because you are inherently unprepared, not because you are failing to move. Every moment spent thinking, "I'll do it later," is another moment that shifts power away from you. Your potential, your influence, your wealth, everything contracts quietly. And the worst part, you barely notice. Human nature makes it easy to tolerate small, repeated failures in judgment. You dismiss them as minor delays, yet they accumulate into irreversible losses. There is also a social dimension to inaction. People instinctively respond to energy and decisiveness. Those who hesitate are often overlooked, ignored, or quietly sidelined. The world does not reward good intentions or plans, it rewards execution. When you do not act, others act in your place. Allies, clients, opportunities, recognition. All these resources do not pause for you. They are claimed by the assertive, the ruthless. The bold, the psychological pressure builds invisibly. Every missed chance reinforces your own perception of inadequacy, creating a feedback loop where fear of failure and inaction feed each other. The Machiavellian principle here is simple action signals control. Even imperfect action communicates dominance. Inaction, by contrast, signals passivity, dependence, and vulnerability. The psychology of inaction is therefore not just about your internal state, it is a social signal. It tells everyone around you that you can be bypassed, replaced, or erased. Understanding this shifts your behavior from a reactive, hesitant state into a proactive, commanding one. The remedy is deliberate self-conditioning. Recognize moments where hesitation is habitual. Question why you are delaying. Is it fear? Is it indecision? Is it an overvaluation of consequences that are not yet real? The moment you identify these triggers, act immediately. Small decisions taken decisively train your mind to override fear. This creates momentum. Momentum in action generates perception, and perception consolidates power. The passive mind must be rewired into an assertive one, because in wealth, perception is as vital as reality. Finally, understand the stakes. Every moment of an action is a psychological surrender. Every delay allows rivals, the environment, and circumstance to dictate your outcomes. Wealth is not granted, it is seized. And it is seized only by those who refuse to allow fear, hesitation, or indecision to rule. The psychology of inaction is your greatest internal enemy. Mastery over it is your first step toward claiming what is closer than you realize. Chapter 3 Archetypes. The passive as the assertive in every environment, whether social, financial, or professional. Two archetypes quietly dominate the outcomes, the passive and the assertive. Understanding these behavioral patterns is crucial because the difference between mediocrity and power, invisibility and influence often hinges on which archetype you embody. The passive waits, hesitates, and defers. The assertive recognizes opportunity, acts decisively, and commands outcomes. These are not abstract labels, they are survival mechanisms encoded deeply into human perception and social reward systems. The passive archetype is predictable. It is cautious, compliant, and conditioned to defer judgment. It seeks permission, waits for validation, and fears standing out. In essence, it hopes to survive by blending in. But blending in is an illusion. The world does not reward those who hide. It rewards those who move, take, and assert. Passivity signals weakness to observers, rivals, peers, and allies alike. Subtle cues like hesitation, uncertainty, and over-explaining betray the passive to the environment. People instinctively respect the decisive, not the cautious. The passive is easily replaced, often without noticing. Opportunities are stolen, influence is minimal, and potential fades quietly. The assertive archetype operates differently. It does not wait for guidance, approval, or perfect timing. It acts immediately, recognizing that hesitation is costly. Its presence alone commands attention. In conversation, in negotiation, in business, the assertive shapes outcomes before others even realize a decision is necessary. This is not charisma, it is controlled force. The assertive controls perception by demonstrating decisiveness, confidence, and unwavering direction. People are drawn to follow, respect, or fear the assertive because the environment interprets action as power. Society instinctively elevates the assertive archetype while marginalizing the passive. History and contemporary examples illustrate this clearly. Bold entrepreneurs dominate markets, decisive politicians control narratives, and individuals who act decisively accumulate resources while the hesitant are erased from influence. The passive rarely notices until it is too late. The assertive often anticipates every gap, every weakness, and exploits them before they are even perceived. Psychologically, these archetypes are reinforced over time. Repeated hesitation conditions the brain to defer decision-making, creating a cycle of passivity. Conversely, repeated assertive action trains the brain to recognize opportunity, overcome fear, and execute with precision. The passive fears failure, the assertive reframes failure as information and opportunity. The difference lies in mindset and habitual behavior. The passive perceives risk as a deterrent, the assertive sees risk as a path to dominance. The key insight for the Machiavellian strategist is this: archetypes are not permanent. The passive can be transformed into the assertive through disciplined training, calculated exposure to decision-making, and deliberate challenges to habitual hesitation. Every action, every small decision executed decisively, strengthens the assertive neural pattern. Socially, each assertive choice signals power, forcing others to recalibrate how they perceive and treat you. The environment reinforces these archetypes continuously. Rivals test boundaries, allies observe loyalty, and opportunity flows toward decisiveness. Being assertive is not about arrogance, it is about survival and accumulation of influence. Those who fail to recognize this archetypal divide remain invisible, while those who master it achieve dominance quietly, efficiently, and relentlessly. In summary, understanding the passive as assertive archetype is not theoretical. It is a survival blueprint. To achieve what is closer than you realize, to claim wealth and influence, you must embody the assertive archetype. You must act decisively, signal control, and allow no hesitation to undermine your authority. Passivity is erasure, assertiveness is command. The choice and the consequences are yours. Chapter 4 Deepening the threat, lost fortune and opportunity. The world does not forgive indecision. Every moment you hesitate, Every opportunity you ignore, every instinct you suppress, creates a widening gap between you and the rewards you claim as your due. Lost opportunities are not temporary. They are permanent shifts in power, influence, and wealth. The passive mind perceives this loss as chance or bad timing, but the truth is far more sinister. The world exploits your hesitation and rewards the decisive. Those who act claim the spoils, those who wait are quietly erased. Consider the nature of wealth itself. Wealth is not distributed equally. It is concentrated among those who recognize the environment's signals, interpret them with clarity, and move before others realize a moment has arrived. The passive, believing they can afford to wait, leaves the field open for the assertive. Every second spent planning without execution, every idea entertained but not acted upon, becomes a vacancy someone else fills. These are not minor losses. They are the foundations of permanent inequality. The longer you defer action, the more difficult it becomes to recover what was once within reach. History offers countless examples. Entrepreneurs who hesitated over investments watched competitors dominate entire markets. Political leaders who delayed bold decisions lost territories and influence to rivals who acted swiftly and decisively. Even in personal finance, hesitating on investments, negotiations, or self-promotion transfers resources directly to those who act. Hesitation is a silent predator. It erodes potential invisibly while you convince yourself that nothing has changed. The psychology behind this is crucial. Human beings are pattern-seeking creatures. The passive signals compliance, reliance, and weakness, sometimes unconsciously through body language, verbal uncertainty, or emotional restraint. Others detect these signals instinctively and respond accordingly. They bypass you, override your position, and claim what you could have had. The assertive, by contrast, communicates power through presence, decision, and action. Wealth gravitates toward decisiveness. The world respects execution, not intention. This chapter is designed to expose the scale of the threat. It is not enough to recognize opportunities intellectually. You must feel the urgency, the existential pressure. Every delayed decision is a psychological surrender to competitors, circumstance, and the passage of time. Hesitation transfers potential wealth from your hands into those of the bold, sometimes permanently. Socially, financially, and strategically, this is the cost of inaction. To survive and ultimately thrive, you must learn to anticipate these threats. It is not enough to act randomly or sporadically. Action must be precise, deliberate, and constant. Observing patterns, understanding timing, and recognizing which opportunities are truly valuable separates the assertive from the passive. The cost of failure is far lower than the cost of inaction. Failure is recoverable, indecision is erasure. Consider also the compounding effect of missed opportunities. Every unclaimed advantage weakens your position relative to peers. Momentum favors the active. Success is a ladder, and hesitation leaves you at the bottom while others ascend. The longer this cycle continues, the more entrenched your relative weakness becomes, until regaining lost ground feels impossible. This is why the passive mind often underestimates the cumulative damage of delay. The lesson is clear: lost opportunities are not theoretical. They are permanent unless seized immediately. Wealth, influence, and power are closer than you realize, but only for those who act decisively. The threat is ongoing, constant, and merciless. To remain passive is to guarantee erasure. To recognize the threat and respond strategically is to begin the transformation from potential to reality.
Chapter 5. Strategic Response. Enforcing Internal Authority. Understanding the threat of an action and the consequences of hesitation is only half the battle. The next step is to enforce internal authority, a state of mind and behavior where you no longer allow external forces or internal doubt to dictate your outcomes. Internal authority is the silent command that projects power without confrontation. It is the difference between being observed as passive and being recognized as decisive, capable, and untouchable. Internal authority begins with recognition. You must understand that your perceptions, decisions, and actions are your primary currency. Others will constantly test, delay, or distract you. They will attempt to exploit your hesitation and capitalize on your uncertainty. Without a strong internal command, you are a leaf in the wind, easily moved by circumstance. Establishing internal authority is therefore not optional. It is necessary for survival, dominance, and the accumulation of wealth. The first tactic is decisiveness. Every action you take, no matter how small, should be executed with intention. Hesitation signals weakness. Decisiveness signals control. This does not mean acting recklessly. It means training your mind to evaluate, decide, and execute with minimal delay. Even when outcomes are uncertain, the act of moving asserts power. Indecision, conversely, invites encroachment, diminishes your perceived value, and allows others to capture your opportunities. The second tactic is boundary enforcement. Internal authority is reflected externally in how you allow others to interact with you. Passive individuals tolerate interruptions, disrespect, and overstepping, unconsciously inviting exploitation. Assertive individuals establish invisible lines of control. They communicate through action, posture, and selective engagement that their time, energy, and decisions are not negotiable. This forces observers to recalibrate their behavior, reducing friction and establishing respect without verbal confrontation. The third tactic is ritualized control of priorities. Internal authority is not chaotic dominance, it is structured influence over your environment. You must prioritize high-value actions, ignoring distractions and low-impact tasks. This selective attention signals mastery. The world recognizes those who focus relentlessly on the few critical levers of power and influence. By consistently controlling your agenda, you communicate competence and dominance, subtly enforcing your authority in every interaction. The fourth tactic is calculated unpredictability. Internal authority thrives on strategic ambiguity. When your responses and actions are deliberate but not easily anticipated, others must constantly evaluate and recalibrate in your presence. Predictability is a weakness. Unpredictability is a tool of power. This does not require manipulation in a negative sense. It requires discipline in action, selective engagement, and a refusal to be moved by the expectations of others. Finally, internal authority is reinforced by self-accountability. Passive individuals externalize responsibility. They blame circumstance, delay action, or wait for guidance. Assertive individuals internalize control. They own their decisions, embrace consequences, and learn from mistakes. This creates a feedback loop. Decisive action strengthens confidence, which strengthens authority, which produces more decisive action. The cycle becomes self-sustaining. When internal authority is established, the consequences are immediate and tangible. Others instinctively defer, respect, or fear your presence. You no longer need to demand obedience or recognition. Your behavior communicates dominance effortlessly. Opportunities gravitate toward you. Rivals hesitate, and influence consolidates. Internal authority transforms the passive into the assertive, the invisible into the untouchable, the observer into the actor. Mastery of this chapter's principles ensures that hesitation, indecision, and fear no longer control your life. Enforcing internal authority is not a technique, it is a fundamental shift in perception, identity, and interaction. With it, the world reacts to you differently. Without it, you remain at the mercy of circumstance, rivals, and time. Power is a choice, and the first step toward wielding it is commanding yourself before commanding anything else. Chapter 6. Identity Death and Replacement, Becoming Untouchable. The final transformation is the death of your old identity, the one that hesitated, deferred, or sought approval, and its replacement with a persona that commands respect, influence, and power by default. Identity is not merely what you call yourself, it is the cumulative perception of others, shaped by your actions, decisions, and presence. To become untouchable, you must destroy the patterns of weakness that previously defined you and rebuild a new code of authority. Old identities are subtle chains. They manifest as approval-seeking, over-explaining, or overextending to gain validation. They whisper doubts, encourage hesitation, and sabotage opportunity. This identity thrives on comfort, consensus, and avoidance of conflict. While it may seem safe, it guarantees invisibility, irrelevance, and mediocrity. Leaving it intact is a slow erasure from power. The first step in transformation is conscious recognition of these patterns. You must identify every habit, thought, and response that signals passivity or weakness. These are the neural and behavioral anchors that must be broken. Replacing an identity is not cosmetic, it is structural. The new identity centers around self-alignment, restraint, and strategic assertion. It manifests in controlled speech, deliberate action, and measured reactions. Where the old self begged attention, the new self commands it silently. Where the old self deferred, the new self decides. Where the old self feared judgment, the new self leverages perception as a tool. Every choice reinforces authority, signaling that your presence is not to be negotiated or tested. Becoming untouchable also requires emotional recalibration. You must detach from the outcomes that previously defined your worth, approval, praise, or social comfort. Emotional independence is not coldness, it is a shield and a lever. By controlling your emotional responses, you deny observers the tools to manipulate or devalue you. The untouchable individual remains calm under scrutiny, neutral in conflict, and measured in power. This emotional consistency amplifies perception of dominance, making others instinctively defer or fear encroachment. Visibility is strategic. The new identity does not seek attention indiscriminately, it projects presence purposefully. Every interaction, glance, and word is an assertion of position. Silence, when necessary, becomes a tool of authority. By controlling when and how you reveal yourself, you create an aura of inevitability. Others anticipate your influence before you act. This is the psychological leverage of being untouchable. The passive can be ignored, but the untouchable cannot be dismissed. In essence, identity death and replacement is a war waged on yourself. The passive, hesitant self must be arrogated. The assertive, controlled, untouchable self must be nurtured. The consequences are profound. Respect becomes automatic, opportunity gravitates toward you, and the social, professional, and financial world acknowledges your presence as inevitable. Those who fail to undertake this transformation remain invisible, exploited, or irrelevant. Those who succeed are rare, commanding, and untouchable, a force that moves through life unchallenged. This final chapter is the culmination of all previous lessons: understanding threats, acting decisively, enforcing internal authority, and mastering archetypes. The untouchable identity is the embodiment of Machiavellian strategy, silent, powerful, respected, and feared. To achieve it, you must embrace the death of your old self and commit to the relentless construction of the new. There is no compromise, there is only transformation.